back to The Scope.
A podcast where we dig deeper into real estate. My name is Elazio Roche.
And myself, Nitin Kumar, your host. Today, we have two special guests, not one. So we have Elazio Roche, my business partner, as well as,
Christine Reyes.
yes, so both of them have an expertise. They both have, new home sales consultant for a long time. And they have also seen the other part of the side, which is Elazil has seen it for real estate as a realtor as well. Today, I want to get your experience, right? Go through your side of journey and understand how, a new home buyer should be able to approach a builder, get more insights, get better deals and figure out what to do next. And for Elazil, I think she has done the realtor part as well. So how she can help. Okay. So if you guys can just briefly give an introduction, right, about yourself, your experience and all that stuff, that will be really, really awesome.
Christine, I'm so excited to finally have you here. I know we have worked together in the last few months, but it's been very quick. And I know you're always available whenever we need you. But I was really excited to have you today because, like he said, we do come from same backgrounds. I was a new home sales consultant for a few years, but I do think that we come from very different builders. And I was coming more from a smaller family-owned business. Both of the builders that I worked with were family-owned, smaller scale, a little bit more custom. So tell us a little bit about the builder you're with and kind of your experience in new home sales.
Yeah, so I've been with Lennar for about 6 years. Huge builder. But yeah, I started out as a sales assistant, got up to concierge, and now I'm a new homes consultant. I've been consultant for about 3 years now with Lennar. And then I did a couple of years previous with another builder.
What do you like the most about your job?
Helping people find homes, the different people, different dreams, different wants, different needs, and then just kind of fine tooth combing what they like to get them in the right home.
Would you say there's a lot of customization with the builder you're currently with?
No customization.
So how does that work on making families happy when they can't get the color they want or the cabinets?
I mean, we sell as is, and a lot of our buyers are first-time buyers, so they're not super picky on what they want or what they have to have. Vinyl in all the bedrooms, no carpet. I mean, there are a few, but at the same time, like, you can't be too picky if you're on a really strict budget, and that's a lot of what we see.
So you both actually came from a very different perspective. For example, you work for a builder which is like $50 billion company. Right? That's the number one builder for the country right now. And you came from a custom builder which makes custom homes. Very different approaches people have, very different targets people have, the companies have, right? And I think the customer base is also a little bit different. So when somebody comes to you, what are your first, steps or advice, or how do you guys, look at your client and see, hey, how can I do best to fit that person needs? And what that person should do to, be more comfortable in the process.
I think the biggest thing that you're looking for is their why. Why are they looking for a home? Why? What are they not happy with now that they have to move? Are they renting, or is the house too small? Is it too big? Are they downsizing? There's so many factors into buying a home, and it's not just a home. It's what's not working for them now that we can fix in the next one, or add in or take away.
What about you?
I would agree. Obviously, for anybody looking for a home, it's the why and what is it causing them to make a change now. But I do think that you buy a house when moments in life, like you're building a family, you're getting a divorce, when you're growing your family, it just, whatever stage in life, I think that at that point, that's when it causes you to make a change and purchase a home or sell a home. For me, it was a little bit different because I was dealing with more experienced buyers. So it was ideally not their first home. It was maybe their second or third. So at that point, they were customizing or they were requesting maybe a different backsplash, maybe custom cabinets. So it was a little bit different for me. And I am really thankful for that experience because I was very involved in the design process. We worked on, at one point, one of the builders I worked with, the buyers got to pick grout color. I mean, that was a
In
little
great
too
detail.
much. We were giving them way too many options. And at that point, they were overwhelmed. So that's where, again, I came in and I could say, okay, well, this grout color goes with this a little bit better. But it's a very different experience than what you're working with, where it's either plan A or plan B. Either you want the browns or the grays. And so, like you said, it all depends on the buyer. And if they're first time home buyers, the money and the payment is the most important thing. For my buyers, at the end of the day, yes, the payment was important, but it was about maybe upgrading that just a little bit more. Maybe they're already in a home. Maybe they just needed that one extra bedroom, but they were going to be particular on what flooring they had or something like that. So that was why it was a little bit
So
different.
we had a situation like recently, right? We we had a guy. He wanted his wife to apply, but looks like his wife has only 6 months of work experience,
Employment.
right? He applied. We figured out she cannot qualify on conventional loan. So, what is your checklist when somebody comes in? What things you guys look at, whether and suggest to the buyer, saying, "Hey, to approve our own, what are the options, and how do you guys go about it?"
I
I'm
mean, go ahead. I
I'm
mean,
very frank just because we deal with so many first time buyers
Uh-huh.
that I'm even asking credit score. Like, what's your credit score?
Uh-huh.
What's your budget? What's your payment? And I know that can be kind of hard on some people to share because they don't know me, and to
Mhm.
really trust
Mhm.
is a big deal for a lot of people. But that's kind of the bottom line. Like, if you're coming in with a 400 credit score, it's not much I can do, but we can work. But it's also finding there's people that don't have 3.5% down for FHA or 5% down. So it's finding those avenues. Well, we have programs that
Mhm.
can help all kinds of buyers with different needs and different points.
Do you have a checklist like what you normally tell them? Hey, these are the things required.
Not really a checklist. It's more just what's the credit score and then where you want to be monthly, because that's.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say a checklist.
no, and even as a realtor and as a new home sales consultant, I think that's where I really, really emphasize the importance of getting an approval letter, and that's going to be with the loan officer, not with us. So I always tell people that of like, I can help you, like you said, I can kind of get an idea based on your credit score or something like that. But at the end of the day, we're not the one running the numbers. We're not the one actually getting their credit score. So I always just emphasize the importance of getting an approval letter and talking to a loan officer before they fall in love with the house that you might have in the community or something like that. And I would come from that perspective, whether I was selling that community or just a realtor showing
You don't
them.
want to show the
We
wrong
don't want
house.
to, just from like a personal experience, I have a friend that's currently looking and she's getting so excited and she's on Zillow, and I'm like, you need to stop now because you haven't even sold your house. You're not on the market. Like there's no point. You're just setting yourself up for failure because you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be disappointed if you're not even ready. You don't have your approval letters. So like don't start looking for a house, I would say, anywhere until you are qualified.
So, what are the 5 things for a people to do to qualify? Like, what are the 5 things they should look at?
Again, we're not loan officers, but if we were telling
But you are a
people
real estate agent. So, what are the 5 things I can help in?
I would say
Mhm.
the credit
credit score.
score,
Mhm.
the budget,
Mhm.
the location.
Mhm.
My non-negotiables and what I tell people is no credit cards or no large deposits in the last 2 to 3 months, no job employment changes in the last 12 months. So I mainly ask about employment, and then again any big debt or payments, because that affects a lot. So like if people are trying to buy a house and they just said, oh yeah, I just bought this house, I mean this car new 2 months ago, then that's an automatic, like you know that it's probably not going to work out. But again, we are not the ones qualifying them.
So, one thing which I've seen, right, what people do is, especially the first time home buyers, they go around and start looking at communities. And for example, people with working with me, they just from simple, they're new, they think that I'm too busy, so they just want to look around and properties and figure out all that stuff. But builders have rules.
Yes.
They want realtor to be present when first time uh, the client shows up. They want all this information to be transparent at that time itself. So how do you guys handle it? Like if somebody shows up saying, hey, I want to see this house, what is your guidance to them?
I would say as a realtor, I always encourage home buyers to consult their realtor and try to get them to go with them to any community that they're visiting. There was one case where I wasn't able to accompany my buyer. I was out of town and I made sure to register, called the builder, told them exactly their name, who I was, and said they're going to be there Saturday at 10 a.m. I will meet you a day before or after, but I can't make it to that particular meeting, but I'm still very involved in the process. And it was crucial because I know that builders have that rule of you have to be there the first time. And so I know you can work with some people. For the most part, it's important because, again, you are representing that buyer.
Right.
You want to be that second pair of eyes. And so as much as like I trust and appreciate what new home sales consultants do, especially because I've been on that side. I think, like you said, realtors can bring a different perspective. Maybe they have other insight, and they're going to know your client more than you do at this
Right.
point,
Yeah.
because they've been working with them, they've been seeing other houses, and maybe that's the one, but only they know that because the client has told them or shared it with them.
And all builders are different, but with Lennar, our we pay realtors on referrals. They're referring their buyer to us. So it's very important that buyers, if they do have representation, they do need to come in with their realtor.
How do you work, or what's your experience on working with someone with a realtor versus someone without one? Like, does your side of things change?
No, not really.
Everything's the same for you. Okay.
So my role is really just in the sales. Like I do just the sales, and then we've got a team that does the back side of it, the concierge side of it. They do all the follow up, the
Scheduling.
the liaison between Lennar Mortgage, Lennar Title, through construction. So they're kind of that middle person. So it doesn't really change, but I do see, I would say, a little bit more success when they do have a realtor, just because they are seeing things, asking questions that a buyer wouldn't normally ask. And
For my experience being a new home sales representative and working for a smaller company, I was concierge. I was that person in the middle. And so we were a lot more involved. But what I learned when I was doing that is that I could tell the difference between a good realtor and a bad, not so good realtor. Because again, they were more proactive. They were asking questions for their client versus one where they showed up the first time and then I never heard from them. I didn't even know they were part of the transaction until closing. And so I do think that it enhances the experience for the buyer. And ultimately, we both want the buyer to be as happy as possible because this is one of the largest purchases in their life.
I totally agree. I have sold houses with both of you as salesperson, right? Which is my experience with both of you is like very different. The experience was very different. I think I first worked with you with Blackburn, and with you I've been working consistently in Lennar, right? Almost like this year maybe we have sold 30 homes, 30 40 homes. I don't know how many we have sold.
quite a few.
Yeah. So, and I think I've sold like 10 15 homes with you as well when you were in Blackburn. So Blackburn was a small builder. Small builder. She was my point of contact for everything. Once we do the contract, for some no reasons as well, I used to just call her for everything, and she was like, even in the warranty section, I had her involved in copying and all that stuff whenever it came to a point, because she was the point go to contact for everything. And in your case, you help me a lot. You help me a lot. Once I have the contract, there is a quick timeline. Very, very quick timeline, 6 hours to 12 hours max to do anything and get a video, get a plot map, get contract, 160-page contract in 12 hours, execute the contract, earn money, submit the sale. Everything has to happen same day.
Right.
We work so late in the night to do all this stuff, which is crazy. People are on the flight doing the stuff, which is not good, but that's how it is. That's how the builder works. With her, I think I had a lot of, she had more leverage. We got a lot of more flexibility. So in a situation like this, where there's a new guy who is buying the house, right? He is like, what is happening here? Why is people calling me in like 12 hours to do something, which is like my life biggest investment? How do you take care of those people at that time?
So I usually set the tone really early. When we go to contract, I'm like, okay, I send an email and this is exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to send you a PDF version of it for you to review. And in that email, it states, you have to sign by 11:45 p.m. so that we can get it done. It is same day because we have a huge team of salespeople.
You have a whole hub. So east, west,
There's
north,
12 of
south.
us.
And anybody can sell
The
in
same
any,
exact
so
houses.
there
So
is
we
a lot
can't-
more
So
pressure.
just to give people perspective, basically there is like 50 sales rep or maybe 60 sales rep only in Austin selling houses. Each hub has a 12 people team. Anybody can sell any house. If you don't sign same day, it goes back for anybody else to
For
pick it
anybody
up. It is like crazy,
Mhm.
to do all this so quickly. And you guys have been doing this for years,
Mhm.
which is
I mean, it works. It works.
It does, but also time is for anybody, even as a buyer, but not just a realtor and not just as a builder. Time is money, and I've seen so many people. Let me just think about it, and then the next day, someone else has sold it, and that was the one that they really wanted. It was in the right location. It was in the right. It was the perfect color, and because they wanted to think just a little bit over
more.
it,
Yeah.
it disappeared. So it's important.
So basically, if you like the house, if you're really, really into it, you have to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep thinking about it. I have an example of a person who got approved for 3 homes in in Pflugerville, and he wanted to buy 3. He bought one, then he thought, okay, give me 1 or 2 days to buy the second or third. In 1 hour, I sold the second and third.
Mm-hmm. So
Unfortunately, the price was like 20% below what is the price today. That quarter end, month end numbers, and I myself sold it. Right?
that's also going back to what you were saying in having a realtor with you is you knowing the market, whereas the buyer doesn't know the market.
Now they know the market, they're waiting. So look at the market today, right? And look at the market in 2020, 2021. What, and like my question to you is, what is the advice not only for a sales rep you guys have, for a buyer as well as a realtor? What is, because you have seen both sides of coin, what do you think are the best approaches for people to do? This is a buyer's market, but it can flip.
Yep.
It will go back to a normal market where it's even, or it may turn around if the rates drop. So what do you guys think based on next 6 months to a year? What do you think?
So during the pandemic,
because
I
you
was
weren't
I was
doing
an
that.
assistant. So I was there on the salespeople's off days. So I didn't sell. Yeah,
It was a little bit different for you.
very different.
I guess I can speak on it. I was in the hype of the pandemic, so I was selling houses without even meeting these buyers. So I was doing a lot of FaceTime calls, a lot of virtual appointments, and I've met a lot of my buyers where I never saw their face, not even after closing. I think years later is when I actually saw their face without a mask. So that was a little bit strange. It was exactly like you're saying. Within hours, houses would be sold. So we did move very quickly, and it was very fast. It was a lot. Where at the same time, we were trying to still give that same quality. And later on, I went to a different builder, which they were more luxury custom builders. So it was a very much different experience. There was no rushing. There was no time crunch on that. It was actually something that I really valued, but we went at their pace. We were building a brand new house from ground up. So there were a lot of steps that had to be taken. We were customizing the house. We were doing design. So we had several appointments. So it was normal for me to meet them 2 or 3 times to get them under contract and go through the steps. So we just worked a little bit different on that.
So what do you think, based on that perspective, what do you think the market will be next 6 months to 12 months? And what should a buyer, a sales rep should do? Because 2021, 2022, even my son, who is not in high school, but could have sold a home. People were just desperate to get a home. Right now, this requires a skill, both sides. As a realtor, as a salesperson, there is a lot of inventory available. People have choices, and you need to figure out, get something good for your client. As a sales rep, also, you have to figure out, the way we work, you are my voice. You are my voice to the management. I love to work with same sales rep all the time, again and again. I worked with her in Blackburn all the time. I'm working with you in South Hub for almost more than a year now,
Mm-hmm.
because you are the voice. So how do you do this negotiations well, better than other people? How
So,
do you help, now in this market where it is competitive, how you are different from other people?
Lennar is different in the fact that we offer everything's included from washer, dryer, refrigerator, blinds, in some cases, garage door opener, um, irrigation. It's all turnkey ready. Just move in your furniture and your clothes and your dog and kids if you want. Um, but our buyer, the process is actually pretty simple. And I always tell people it's actually super simple. The application, we can have an answer to your application within 15 minutes. Our loan officers are given a timeline of 15 minutes from the time the application is complete. So it's super easy to get in there, get the application done. It takes 15, 20 minutes, another 15 to get an answer. We can be in contract within the next couple
1 hour,
hours.
1 hour,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
It is. I think the best thing is to have a simplified process, and I think
mhm,
being such a big builder, Lennar has done that.
mhm.
People have such a streamlined process to get a green light, yellow light, orange light, what you have in on the process improvement. And your programs as well. I have worked with people who are my tenants who want to buy homes, and they are living in your home. They want to buy another home, and the loan officer have worked with them, put them in programs
Mhm.
where they can get approved, credit improvement program 3 months, 6 months down the line, fix all their credits. And that is a very nice way to do it, long term to do. And being so busy, still people are able to do that part.
Oh yeah.
If I'm so busy, if I have a client who is like, going to take 6 months or a year to buy a home, maybe I don't have the time.
Mhm.
But I've seen the loan officers spending time on people, keep working with them for 6 months, 12 months down the
Mhm.
line to buy a house, is like, hats off to those people.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have same people repeat. Like, for example, I've worked with Rachel for a year or two, Aaron for a year or two with you guys. Now we have Brian
Mhm.
as our loan guy doing the same file again and again, which helps. When I worked with her, that same process helped me because she was the main point of contact. And that, who was the loan officer? I don't even remember the name. So not good then.
We had one.
I know the name. uh, but the good part is she was able to get all the credit approved from outside lender. So in her case, I think most of the buyers of mine went to an outside lender, and that was the thing which we did.
Mhm.
Any suggestions you have for people like who are waiting on the fence? I have been telling my clients, hey, you have March. Till March, you decide. You've been waiting for 5 years. I met a guy, he's waiting for 5 years, and he's so happy that he waited for 5 years. The market is down.
Mhm.
And I showed him a couple of houses, and he wants to buy in Round Rock. Okay. He wants to buy new construction, and he wants to buy west side of Round Rock. I think there is only 3 projects in whole Round Rock.
Oh wow.
There is only 70 homes, and there is 140,000 people living in Round Rock. The market shifts, that 70 homes can be sold in 1 week. That was my answer to him, that you can wait for another 1 year, and then you will wait for another 10 years. So you have till March. You can buy or you can keep waiting and be more happy that, hey, I'm going to hit the bottom and buy. So what is your advice to people who are, he was giving me all US data. So I just looked at Cedar Park and Round Rock and said, hey, there is only 120 houses in Cedar Park and Round Rock in the whole inventory for next 1 year.
I think the market is going to turn. It's a matter of when,
Mm-hmm.
but I think when it does, it's going to hit like it did before, and inventory is not. It's going to be scarce and far and in between. And so I agree. Like, don't wait. Like we're buying interest rates down in some cases to 3.99
Mm-hmm.
For in a 5/1 ARM, or they can go fixed at 4.25 or as low as 4.25. That's amazing right now. So jump. And if you need to, if rates drop again and you want to refinance. There's no refinance penalty on there.
Yeah, these rates will not even hit for next 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no point in like, hey, the rates are going to drop and then I'm going to buy.
Right.
Right. And As I give you the example, the guy is waiting for 5 years to buy a primary home in Round Rock. There is only 200 homes in next 1 year built in Round Rock, Cedar Park combined. So you can wait.
So I can sell anything pretty much south of the river from Bastrop to Kyle all the way down to San Marcos. I believe it's now 7 or 8 different communities that I can sell in. Price point starting in the low 200s all the way up to the mid 400s. Um, we offer closing costs, rate buy down. It's a great time to buy. 2 brand new communities. We just opened one in San Marcos and another one in Maxwell. Both are going to be master plan communities with amazing amenity centers. So it's perfect time to come out and tour them with me.
I have a question which is for both of you. You both have worked with me. So just consider yourself in my position and give me the best advice possible. What do you think a realtor should do?
I'm sorry, but what the heck is this question?
Normally you meet so many realtors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some of them are very smart. Some of them are, they don't know what they're doing. So you must be thinking like that. So what is your best advice for a realtor to be partnership with you guys? So that it can work very, very well.
I mean, I want a realtor that knows the business, that's not going to over ask questions, but not under ask questions. But I think staying with one NHC in that community or in that area is important to the NHC, but also you just build, just like you're building relationship with clients, you're also building relationship with realtors. And that to me is huge because it says loyalty to me, but not just that, but also just you can learn to trust me because I'm going to try and do whatever I can to help you and your buyers as well.
So I'll add a couple of my takes why I work with same person again and again. Right. First is I don't have to say this whole story again. Who I am, where I am from, all that stuff. I work with the same guys. And then the good part is once you build referral relationship with people, I know your job is not easy. You are there to sell a home. There is a number, you can't go below that number. Every house has a margin, builder has a margin and all that stuff. I normally don't push people too much to a point where I know how much it costs to build a home, right? I have to teach my client, this is where we are. We can't go below this, right? And I need to have a trustworthy same partner salesperson with whom he can give me, hey, this is the best we can get for your client, which works for everybody. It works for the builder, it works for the realtor, it works for the salesperson, and as well as for the client. Most importantly, for the client, right? Once you go into a community, you start with a new person, it takes time to adjust for everybody in the plane. For example, fashion, you have same floor plans, almost similar floor plans, similar sort of communities, all that stuff. So easy for me to figure out what is the lowest comps on this it's sold. Easy for you because you know me, right? And then easy for the client. He'll get the best deal, right? So what happens normally is people don't have that experience. They go in and they say, hey, we're going to beat this number. Even some of my clients sometimes comes to me and say, the house is 400, but I want to get it for 310. Or house $1 million, I want to get it for 700K. And I just say, is there a reason or logic with the 700 number came from, or is it just the number in the sky and you just caught it saying, hey, 700 is what I like. And some people think, and just they simply say, hey, this is a number for me, which works. Okay.
I feel like there's people that do that just to see how far they can
go.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, the good part is I am very easy to say no to people, right? I need a partner also who can do the same thing, say no to people if it is too much to ask. So what are your advice? I'll come back to the question now again. For a partnership to work between a sales rep and a real estate person, what is the advice you guys think should be?
I would say to wrap this up is it is about relationships and it is about making it a mutual beneficial relationship where the realtor is the experienced person on the market, on their client, but you as a sales rep, your experience in the product and the community.
Absolutely.
And so you are both working together. And if you both have a good relationship, then ultimately the goal is just to make your client happy. And
Yeah.
again, if you guys have that good relationship, that's why you're able to go back and forth and say, hey, they need this, or hey, can you help us out with that? So I think it's truly based on the relationships, and then that makes all the negotiating a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, the end goal is to get the buyer or client a home, a place where they're either going to live or they're going to invest in. So yeah, relationships are super important. Building it not just with the realtor, but also with the client, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are signing on the dotted line.
Correct. I personally think that, when people come to me, I don't want to sell them immediately the day they meet me. I give them time, 3-4 months, to figure out what I'm doing, look at my emails, talk to me. But what do you think? Like for you, I spend already 3-4 months with them before they come and generally talk to you, right? Because what is the biggest mistake normally you have seen a client do when they walk in and look at the sales rep? What is,
Not being pre-qualified, not knowing what they, we said it earlier, is a client coming in and looking at a $400,000 house when they can only afford a $200,000 house. Knowing what you qualify for is super important.
But again, that goes on whether if they even had a realtor or them being educated on it, because maybe they didn't know. They're thinking, let me just go look. They fall in love with a $400,000 home and then they qualify for $300,000, but it's because they were uninformed.
Right.
So it does happen.
So if you summarize, basically first they have to qualify. If you are going for a conventional loan, they should have a 2 year of work history, right? Then they should look at what is their debt to income ratio, what are they making. Generally, it has to be below 50% for them to qualify to buy a house, right? What are their expenses? Because there is not only buying a house down payment which is required, but also you have to have 6 months of reserves to do all that stuff, handle a house, that all thing. And finally they should trust the people they are working with. I think mostly once you have a trusting relationship, for example, if my clients look at it, most of them are buying without even seeing a house. I sell investment homes. I'm selling just based on, they just blindly are betting on me, right? Mostly you are making the videos now. I'm not even make the video. You give me the video, I send it to them. They just talk to me for an hour, and then based on the bet, it is happening. So trusting is, I think, the most important factor in this journey. If you are able to make that work, that makes the salesperson job easy, the realtor job easy, and everything else.
So if you want to come to our home with me in the South area, you can reach me at 512-638-7306. My email is christine.reyes@lennar.com. I'd love to show you around and help you find a home. South of Austin, Bastrop, Lockhart, Kyle, Maxwell, Euland, and San Marcos.
Can you tell us the name of the new communities in San Marcos?
San Marcos is going to be River Bridge Ranch, and Maxwell is Cotton Gateway.
Great.
And last, not the least, I think Christine has a very, very good quality. So before Christine, last year I worked with Cody Walker. I think we both sold almost 70 homes in 1 year. And before that as well. And Christine, when Cody was not there, she never ever complained, showed anything. She opened the door. She walked me through the house. Every time I was there.
Even though I knew he was working with Cody. One day it'll pay off.
So basically, she never had any complaints, never had any questions, never had any, people think, okay, why is he not working with me? Why is working with only one person? She was super, super nice. So naturally, she is very nice. She has grandkids, which doesn't look like she has grandkids.
I have 3.
So that actually is the reason I work with you. I could not have let Cody go at that time.
Right.
But Cody moved to another builder, and that's it. We've been working for a year together now. And hopefully we'll continue working. Wherever you go, whichever builder you work with, I'll work with you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, on your busy day to being here, right? And giving us how a new consultant life is.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I'm super impressed by this profile of being a new sales consultant.
Thank you so much for being our eyes and ears in the communities when we're not able to make it. Thank you. We'll see you next time. My name's Alaziel.
And my name is Nitin Kumar. Thanks for tuning into The Scope.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.